Latina Vermonters. First of all, of course, is thanks so much for inviting me to be the key that reopens this Noche de Cultura. Thanks to Valerie for the invitation and to Alianza Latina for this opportunity to feel at home once again. This is the second time I've been invited to speak for Alianza. Last time was in May of 2007, 6 years ago, so I went back to revisit my speech. At that time, we were in the middle of the war in Iraq. And I talked about the overrepresentation of Latinos and Latinas in combat and supply units, and the subsequent disproportionate rates of our fellow Latinos being killed and injured in action, many of them becoming American citizens post-mortem. This was in line with my art and poetry project back then entitled The Only Bush I Trust Is My Own. Yes, you heard right, The Only Bush I Trust Is My Own, a collective exhibition presented here at UVM 2006 and later in other venues. But I also talked about the Vermont Teddy Bear Company and their brand new line of Latino bears with a Spanish flair, their words. This included Mamacita bear, red flower on ear and ready for salsa dancing. Papi Chulo bear, flower in la solapa right here and dressed in black. Not sure if for a tango moment or a mafia sting. Amor, tattoo bear, bad boy, irresistible. Quinceañera bear with necklace, dressed in fabulous pink. And the favorite for all gringos and Latinos alike, you could buy your very own 15-inch tall Latin lover bear, with the rose now seductively crossing his bare mouth. Each for the sensible price of $79.99, $80. So I went to see whether these stereotypical fellow Latino Vermonters evolved at all or increased their ranks over the years. Perhaps Mamacita Bear started her own business, or Quinceañera Bear will be a CEO in a venture capitalist funded company, or Papi Chulo will tirelessly be working for a non-profit organization to help eradicate poverty. No faith in Amor Tattoo Bear, though hopelessly in love with a guerrillera who broke his heart and left him for good. So I started the search. Let's see. Here, there. Okay. Okay, let's look for Mamacita Bear, number one, right? Okay, so Mamacita Bear. Mamacita Bear. Did you mean Mama's Boy Bear? No, I didn't, but let's try. Okay, let's see. Well, this guy is not what I'm looking for, but it looks pretty much like a recycled Latino. It was like the tattoo bear. It's not the one we're looking for. So let's look for a Latin lover bear. No, there's this boxing guy here. No, this is not what I'm looking for either. So let's try, I don't know which one would I follow. Which one would, Papi Chulo. Papi Chulo bear. No, they cannot be found. I don't know. Let's see Quinceañera. Maybe we have luck with that. Quinceañera with an N or an N. Yes! We found her. Okay, let's see. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so we have Quinceañera bear. And hey, you have ghosts there too. Depending on the browser, you could have glimpses of Papi Chulo bear or Mamacita bear. They will appear as ghosts, mere ectoplasms, crime perhaps to be noticed in an otherwise ferocious market. See Quinceañera Bear, who is the sole survivor of the Latino bear line at the Vermont Teddy Bear Company. Forever 15, forever in pink, beauty and charm at the convenient price of $89.98, an increase of $10 over the last 6 years. So just thinking, because sometimes the browsers don't follow this, I did a screenshot of this beautiful bear. So does this mean that you cannot buy Papi Chulo Bear anymore? You cannot acquire this lovely reminiscence of a line full of passion and cliches full of expanding expectations of a roaring market. What better than an amante bear for a steamy romance on February 14, 2009? That's what I found. So here we have the perfect bear for Valentine's. Wondering what Latinos are planning to do with our $1 trillion worth of purchasing market power? We are buying Latin-themed teddy bears, are we? Okay. Looking to tap into huge economic potential? Hey, they are putting the Vermont Teddy Bear Company a Spanish language website. Let's check it out. Okay. Free with purchase? No. This is definitely not Spanish, not even Spanish. So let's get this. Okay, so no. So he has Mamacita bear, Papi Chulo bear. We know that these people are disappeared, so it's not true. We cannot find or buy them. Amante Bear, Mamacita Bear, Spanish-speaking webpage for bear lovers and buyers, all desaparecidos, missing. If you keep searching, and I would recommend, by the way, avoiding googling images of an Amante Bear, please, I don't want to be responsible for that. You will find a few remnants and bear options, mere glimpses of their long-gone marketing presence. Here are some. Okay, let's see some of these things that I found. For example, let me see. The El Amante bear. We can find him in a Russian eBay. Okay, no comprendo. I mean, not that many bits right there. Maybe you can find it in an American eBay. That could happen. Let's see. Yes, it's there. No bids though. Nobody's buying this beautiful bear. Let's see the description. What they say about this beautiful bear. Okay, it's new. In box, Vermont teddy bear, El Amante Latino. Box has been opened, so someone was curious. He has tags still attached and is in mint condition. Leather pants, gold chain, open shirt, and rolls in his mouth. So cute. Okay, but nobody wants it. Good. Okay. Let me see Papi Chulo. Let me see Papi Chulo. Where it went. And it. Okay. I guess one person bought it for $19.99. However, if you Google the images related to the search Te Amo Bear, Vermont Teddy Bear, you will find the whole ectoplasmic Latino bunch. Ghost of images in Google. That depends on the browser. It looks something. Okay, let me see. I have this. So you can see Papi Chulo right here, and you have a set of related items. In my own browser, it was Papi Chulo. Mamacita Bear is here. You have also a worker, Vermont variation of bears. You have the Christmas bear. Of course, we do have the military, the gang. And I have a different screenshot. I couldn't get the original one. Luckily, as you see, nowhere to go but virtually. Well, luckily, I will say this is an improvement. The stereotypes of Latino partying, salsa dancing, gang members, a lot of hot passion down the drain of the visible market, at least for the Vermont Teddy Bear Company. This is not the case for the global subconscious that retains its convenient and restrictive perceptions over Latinos and Latinas. We are so much more. We are visionaries, hard workers, amazing creators, spoken word artists, talented scientists and dancers. Our complexity and diversity make us strong and powerful, perhaps a reason to create the illusion of invisibility of our many talents, the pervasive crafting of stereotypes. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, the only remaining Latina bear alive and kicking is the quinceañera bear. No wonder. The supreme stereotype, fixed in her perpetual 15, untouched and in pink, a fantasy of perfection and so-called innocence that retains all forms of oppression and limitation for over half the humanity, Latinas, gringas, and beyond. Proper, in pink, obedient, beautiful, brains not part of the equation, quinceañera as a ritual addresses the change from child to woman, preparing her for the virtues of womanhood while emphasizing its signs: tiara, pink dress, false teeth. This is a ritual in preparation for her traditionally limited role to that of a mother and a wife. The idea of a quinceañero, her male counterpart, is simply a joke, which underlines the discrepancy and the hierarchy. Women are beautiful vessels, men are the warriors and sustainers, the main characters in the movies, the heroes, the commanders-in-chief. Breaking this trap of sometimiento, subjugation of women to the conveniently imposed yoke of image, will take more than 6 years to overcome for sure. Let's see what I will have to say the next decade when invited again by Alianza Latina. I hope to say quinceañera desaparecida, missing quinceañera, true woman bear in charge. I hope this will be the case, and you all will be part of making that dream possible. And since quinceañera is the ultimate stereotype for Latina women, for all women in fact, because sexism is ever present and pervasive pretty much everywhere, to the point that often it is not recognized, and people keep ordering and buying quinceañeras, and also, let me see, sweet 16s at the steep price of $89.98. I would like to finish this presentation not with a hip hop, as I did 6 years ago, but with a poem that I believe Valerie likes, and many of you, I hope. This is from my project called 30 Moons 13, a project that involves poems, interactive testimony, and digital art. To read this poem, I invited Agnes, a computer-generated natural voice who is an expert in moons. Let's listen to this Agnes.
It is the largest moon in the solar system relative to the size of its planet. However, the Earth and Moon are still considered a planet-satellite system, rather than a double planet system, as their very center, the common center of mass, is located 1,700 km, about a quarter of the Earth's radius, beneath the surface of the Earth.
Oh, well, that was a glitch there, but it's about the moon. So this poem I'm going to read, I'm going to finish with this poem. It's called Nombrar el Cosmos in Spanish, to name the cosmos. And there is an epigraph right there. You have the translation. Well-behaved women seldom make history. This is from Laurel Thatcher Ulrich, and also from Gloria Fuertes, an amazing Spanish poet. Cuidado, cuidado, esta mujer lleva el coño en la boca. Las chicas buenas no hacen historia. Las malas nombran, obturan, circunnavegan, señalan con el dedo y se lo meten en la nariz. A ver qué encuentran. Luego descubren la función del radio y las llaman putas, como a Curie. O inventan poemas a los mendigos y las llaman putas, como Alfonsina. O esculpen dioses y los fornican y las mata el marido, como Agustini. O oscilan por el universo y las difaman, como a Terescova. Las chicas buenas no hacen historia, las malas nombran. Prefiero, como las Fuertes, no ser modosa, obediente, pacata, virgen y enunciar. Muchas gracias.